As Brad and I stood in line waiting to order our lunch, I quietly wondered what a good idea these lunches were. This is something new that we started doing just in the last few months. We always try to leave separately. I don't need tongues wagging at work. The barista, an older man, calls me by name. "Hey Connie, what are you up to today?" "Oh, hi, I'll have a tomato and mozzarella focaccia and a coffee frappuccino." "Brad, what are you going to eat?" "Whatever you ordered will be fine." "Wait a minute, I think I forgot my wallet." "It's okay, Brad, I can handle it." Weird, I wonder how the barista knew my name. I don't think we've ever met. And I haven't been to that coffee shop in over 2 weeks. Brad started laughing. "I find it so strange that an old man has to work in a coffee shop. I'll find a table for us and wait for you." I put our lunch on a tray and went to find Brad. He had a free table in the back of the coffee shop, sitting with my partner at lunch. I was captivated by his good looks. He was handsome, 6 feet, 2 inches tall and 7 years younger than me. I'm a married mother of 1 and will be turning 40 next January. He looks really good. It's clear he's had a thing for me since the Christmas party last year. Brad started working for us as a real estate agent 3 months before Christmas. Last year has been pestering me non-stop since our first dance. Not that I let anything happen. I'm happily married to a fantastic man and have a beautiful 9-year-old daughter. But I certainly love the attention. Now, as said, I allowed him to kiss me on the cheek a couple of times. He reminds me every day how beautiful I am and compliments my outfits. For the last 5 weeks, we have started having lunch twice a week. The last time we went to lunch, he hugged me in my car and kissed me on the lips for the first time. I was shocked. It felt so wrong, but at the same time. So right from that day on, I refused his invitation to lunch. That was 5 days ago. And after Brad kept promising to be a good boy, I reluctantly agreed, sitting across from him and listening to him talk while I ate my sandwich. I realized that he must be drinking my drink. The paper cup he held in his hand had the name Connie written on it and the cutest little angel wings on either side of my name. We continued to talk a little about work and then about the upcoming Christmas party. I was nervous about the Christmas party because my husband Troy was going to be there this year. Due to conflicting work schedules, he was unable to attend last year. I was so worried that there might be some problems with Brad and Troy both being there. We had to head back to the office soon, and just as I was about to say this, I felt Brad's hand on my knee under the table. I quickly jumped to my feet and said, "See you in the office," and ran out the door. I knew my wife Connie was nervous about the upcoming Christmas party. My previous co-worker Penny kept me informed of what was going on at my wife's work. Penny worked at my law office as a temp assistant about 1.5 years ago. She was a 32-year-old single mother struggling to make ends meet. Penny was a dedicated worker, but I just didn't need someone full-time. So when my wife told me one evening that they were looking for a receptionist, I gave her a glowing review. This summer, out of the blue, Penny called me when she told me that she wanted to talk to me about something important. I recommended that she come to the office. I knew that everyone loved her and everyone would be happy to see her again. After she exchanged pleasantries with some of the staff, I invited her into my office and she sat down opposite me. I asked about the family, how they were doing, and whether she liked the job. Penny told me that she was very happy and the family was doing well. She also told me that she had not yet found that special man for her. She thanked me again for getting her a job in my wife's office. Penny then stated, "Anyway, that's why I'm here today. We have an employee at work. His name is Brad. He can be called a real player, even though he has a wife and 2 very young children. Brad loves to brag about the women he calls the subjugated and the one he says he is about to conquer. First of all, Penny, call me Troy. Penny, if this guy is harassing you, I will make sure it is taken care of because harassment in the workplace is definitely illegal, to say the least. No, don't get me wrong, sir. I mean, Troy." Yes, Brad was making hints, but I quickly stopped him and he immediately shut up his target. "Troy is Connie. Your wife Connie wasn't stupid, and she was very careful to make sure no one at work knew what was going on between her and Brad. But unfortunately for her, he wasn't that smart and liked to brag." Penny continued to fill me in on everything she had heard or seen. I felt like I was truly in her debt now. I made it my mission to find out everything I needed to know about my opponent, about his appearance, what kind of car he drove, and everything else. It was 3 days before Christmas and I had a party tonight, Saturday. I woke up early after a sleepless night and was going to meet my mother. We took my daughter with us. She wanted to get a manicure. I got a manicure, pedicure, and my mom got a pedicure. After that, my mother took my daughter to her home for the night. Troy was up and heading to the gym before I even got out of bed. He always kept himself in great shape because his job was not so physical and he liked to exercise at least once or twice a week from time to time. I went with him and it turned me on to watch him work with a punching bag. When I went with him, I always asked him not to shower in the gym. As soon as we returned home, I pounced on him. I liked the smell of his sweat. It turned me on. I don't know what it is lately. Maybe it's just the thought that I'll turn 40 and won't feel as desirable. Our sex life wasn't what it was. I guess that's to be expected after so many years of marriage. Don't get me wrong, we still make love regularly. Troy is a gentle, loving lover and an excellent provider. I didn't even have to work if I didn't want to. He's also the best father a daughter could wish for, loving her with all his heart and always being there for her in everything she does. Last night when he went to bed, he had a very serious expression on his face. Troy sat up on the bed, looked at me straight in the eyes, and said, "Connie, what do you want for Christmas this year, Connie? What is your wish?" What a strange question. You fulfill all my wishes. I'm sure you will choose something wonderful for me, as you always do. The way he said it alarmed me, and I had trouble sleeping. Again, my daughter left with her mom, and I popped into the jewelry store to pick up the very expensive watch I picked out for Troy this Christmas. I knew he had his eye on them last summer. He would never buy this for himself. He was very careful to make sure we were provided for, and he always thought of himself last. Everything was ready for today's party. I chose my little red dress and put it on the chair. I decided to lie on the bed for a while and wait for Troy to come home. I took a short nap so that I would be fresh in the evening. I woke up to the sound of running water in the shower and tiptoed into the bathroom just as the water turned off. I slipped through the slightly open door and find my husband drying himself with a towel. "Hey, sleeping beauty, I didn't mean to disturb you, but are you ready to play now?" My loving husband pulled me into his arms, pressing his naked body against mine and kissing me. I parted my lips. Our tongues slid into each other's hungry mouths. Troy began walking me slightly backwards through the bathroom door towards the bed. We both continued to prepare for the party in separate rooms. I still needed to put on makeup and fix my hair while applying makeup. I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, am I still desirable? Yes, I know, I keep myself in good shape and have a beautiful face. But now I see these crow's feet around my eyes. Even though I'm blonde, I've seen strange gray hairs here and there. It won't be long before I have to start growing old. I know, Troy keeps telling me how beautiful I am. But I just keep wondering if some younger model could take his mind off me. I wonder if Brad will come with anyone tonight, and if he doesn't, I hope he'll be on his best behavior. I opted for a black bra with matching thong. Troy always raved about how great my legs looked, so I decided not to wear stockings. The coupe de grace, my little red dress flared at the knees and was off the shoulder, showing just the right amount of cleavage. We met Troy downstairs. He looked stunning in a black suit, white shirt, and a turquoise blue tie that brought out his eyes. He told me how fantastic I looked and hugged me as he walked me to the door. Troy decided to drive because he doesn't drink much. As things stand on the way to the party, I decided to call our little girl so the two of us could say goodnight to her. When we arrived at the Holiday Inn downtown, we parked in the underground parking lot and took the elevator up to the lobby floor. As we pulled up, Troy pulled me into his arms and kissed me deeply in my 3-inch red stilettos. I could almost look him in the eye as soon as the doors opened. He whispered in my ear, "You look stunning." Many people from 3 different real estate agencies have already arrived at the event. We headed straight to the bar, and Troy asked for 2 glasses of Riesling. Near the dance floor, I introduced my husband to my friends. We chatted and then found a free table. I haven't seen Brad until now, which is probably a good thing. Sitting there and listening to the DJ play great music, we enjoyed our drinks. Troy and I struck up a conversation with 2 older ladies sitting across from us. They were very nice. I had never met them before as they were from other places. Troy took my hand and we walked out onto the dance floor. After dancing 3 songs, we returned to the table. Troy said he'd be right back and bring me another drink. I started talking to another charming couple. When he returned, he treated me to another glass of wine and switched to ginger ale himself. I introduced him to the nice couple I was talking to and asked if it was okay if I went looking for my boss to say hi. After a short conversation with my boss, I finished my glass and grabbed another on the way to the table. When I returned, I saw Penny standing at the table, talking to my husband. Returning to the table, Troy stood up and pulled out a chair for me to sit down. I smiled at Penny, knowing that she had worked with my husband before. She works in my office, but we don't talk very often. I find her shy, but a good worker. Penny then continued her conversation. "Hey, Connie, I like your dress anyway. Nice to see you." I smiled, said thank you, and she left. I took another sip of wine, then looked at my husband and asked, "So she calls you Troy now?" Just at that moment, one of the gentlemen from the next office asked me if I would like to dance, holding out his hand to me. I looked at Troy, and he nodded approvingly on the dance floor. I looked back and saw Brad dancing with some woman I had never seen before. As soon as the song ended, he came up to me before I had time to return to my table, took my hand and said, "Let's have a drink." I pulled my hand away and looked around to see if anyone was watching, but I followed him into the bar. He poured us both some rum and eggnog and we toasted the holidays. And then he asked me to dance. I didn't see anything wrong with it, so we went to the dance floor as we danced. Brad tried to pull me closer to the table where my husband was sitting, but I was determined to stay on the far side. I wasn't sure if his motive was to make my husband jealous or if it was because there was something coming from the ceiling. Very close to our table was hanging down mistletoe. The alcohol began to take its toll on me, and by the third song I realized that I had been away from the table for too long. My wife thought I had no idea she was dancing with Brad, but I looked over and saw them at the bar having drinks. I was just getting up to cross the dance floor and intervene when Penny asked me if I would join her for the dance. We went out onto the site just as we started dancing. The song ended and the next song came on a Johnny Rivers slow dance. So we kept dancing close, but right. I had just returned to the table and looked up to see my husband dancing with Penny. I sat there tapping my nails on the table and watched them like a predator watching a watering hole. When the song ended, she still had her hands on his shoulders. They were standing right under the mistletoe, and she looked up, stood on her tiptoes, and leaned forward to kiss him. It could be on the cheek, but from my angle it looks like lips. Then another man came up and asked Penny to dance, and she left. Troy returned to the table, sat down, and reached for my hand. I removed my hand, looked him in the eyes, and said, "What the hell was that?" Thank God. At that moment, no one was sitting at the table with us or heard Connie. Maybe we should go home. We need to talk. Well, I'm not ready to go home yet, and I'm ready to have another drink. I got up, went to the bar, and ordered another glass of wine. I looked over and saw Brad dancing with some woman, so I walked over and intervened. He started laughing and then continued dancing with me. Leaning over, Brad whispered in my ear, "Why don't we go for air?" Staggering, I followed him. When we got to Brad's SUV, it's been years I think since I last smoked during my university days. I was instantly turned on and started giggling like a schoolgirl, leaning against his truck to steady himself. Brad opened the back door and said, "Let's cool down for a minute." I thought to myself that I needed to go back upstairs to my husband, but my legs thought otherwise and I plopped down in the back seat. Brad climbed in after me and I leaned back and leaned my head against the far door. He climbed on top of me and started kissing me. It felt so wrong, but at the same time so right. I was as horny as a teenager again. It was ridiculous and childish to kiss in the back seat. Brad continued to kiss me, reaching under my dress for the first time since I met my husband. I felt another man inside me. To my surprise, the door behind my head swung open and my head fell back. Yes, my head was thrown back completely and I was looking into my husband's eyes. Troy's face looked furious. Brad looked forward, just as Troy punched Brad square in the nose with all his might. Immediately blood gushed out, then throwing my small clutch with my cell phone into the back seat, he left without saying a word. I desperately pushed Brad away from me while simultaneously trying to get out from under him onto the sidewalk through the open door. All I could hear was Brad screaming. He broke my nose by the time I got to my feet and cleaned myself up. Grabbing my purse from the backseat, I saw Troy's car pull out. I chased him for several feet but could not catch him, and I would not have known what to do if I had succeeded. "Brad, I need to go home. Give me a ride." "Get yourself. I have to decide what I'm going to do about this. I have to get home to my wife and explain what happened to my face." I fell to the ground like a rag doll, sobbing hysterically. I had ruined my entire life with one act. What the hell was I supposed to do now? After a while, I forced myself onto my heels and walked up the ramp into the cold, dark night. I have to go home. I have to fix this somehow. It was snowing lightly. I looked back at the front of the hotel and saw a taxi parked in front of it. When I got to the taxi, I opened the passenger door and to my surprise, he was there again. Yes, it's him. The old man from the coffee shop. The old man from the elevator. I closed the passenger door and climbed into the backseat. Repeat again. "Who are you?" "My name is Guardian. Pleased to officially meet you, Connie." "How do you know my name?" "I only ordered coffee at a coffee shop. I just have a good memory." "Do you drive a taxi too? What can you do to make ends meet?" Having told him the address, I noticed that he had a little angel hanging on a chain with a mirror. He turned on the meter, honked the horn, and drove off into the dark, snowy night. I sat and cried in the back of the taxi, desperately trying to reach Troy on his cell phone. His phone was obviously turned off. I sent him text messages telling him how sorry I was, asking for forgiveness, and telling Troy how much I loved him. If you don't mind me saying that, little lady, you look very upset. Is there anything I can do to help? It's nice of you to offer help, I exclaimed, choking on tears. But no, you can't do anything for me unless you work a miracle. I ruined my marriage my whole life. Only a Christmas miracle can help. Well, if you are truly repentant, I will pray for a Christmas miracle for you, Mrs. Connie. I would appreciate it. After that, we drove in silence on a dark winter night, illuminated only by the headlights, breaking through the falling flakes of snow as I silently cried to myself. We approached what had once been my happy home. My heart sank when I saw no footprints in the driveway, and not a single light on. Troy didn't come home. What should I do now? The taxi pulled into the driveway, and I sat in stunned silence. I don't know what to do now. Oh, sorry. How much do I owe? I checked my cell phone for a message from Troy, then picked up the key in my purse and suddenly realized I had no money. Sorry, I don't have any money with me. Do you mind if I come home? I have money in another wallet. I started crying loudly again. I'm completely stupid, I thought. Mrs. Carney, everything will work out. Have faith. Go and do what you need to do. I hope so. I'll be right back. I promise. Getting out of the taxi, my heels got stuck in the snow and I almost slipped and fell. I opened the door and stepped into darkness, as dark as my future feeling for the switch in the dark. She turned on the light. I hurried up the stairs to get the money, turning on the bedroom light and grabbing my purse. I saw that everything looked exactly the same as it did when we left it. I put on my slippers, fumbled for the money, and hurried back to pay for the trip. Approaching the door, I looked outside, but the taxi had already left. It was snowing heavily, so all our tracks had already disappeared. After closing the door, I returned to the kitchen, grabbed the phone, and tried to call Troy again. His phone is turned off. I'm terribly worried. Has he really left me? Will he come back? The weather is bad and I'm worried that he might even have an accident. I don't know who else to call. I can't call my mother. It's late. And if I did call, I'd be opening a whole can of worms, trying to explain why I don't know where my husband is. If Troy isn't home in the morning, I'll call my daughter and then talk to my mom. I made sure the lights were on outside, but not in the hall, and decided to go upstairs, take a shower, and wash the dirt off my body from Brad's touch. If only I could get him out of my head. She took off her little red dress and laid it out on the chair. I took off the rest of my underwear and threw them into the laundry basket. I suddenly felt very bad and ran to the toilet to throw up after I jumped into the shower. I tried to scrub myself dry, but I couldn't wash away my shame. I dried myself with a towel, brushed my teeth, and put on my pajamas. Alas, I have no choice but to go to bed and try to rest. I wanted to hope that Troy would come home. I couldn't sleep. I just replayed the events of the evening over and over again in my mind. The remorse and guilt I felt were almost unbearably painful. At some point I must have dozed off because the next thing I heard was the sound of running. Water. What is this? Troy taking a shower. I stood up and tiptoed towards the bathroom just as the water turned off. Troy stepped out of the shower, grabbing a towel. Hey, Sleeping Beauty, I didn't mean to disturb you. It's a pity that we won't have time to have a little fun before the Christmas party. I stood and looked at him in shock, trying to understand what he was telling me and what was happening. He pulled me into his arms, pressing his naked body against mine, and kissed me passionately. He lightly patted my butt and said, "Are you going to go to the party in these pajamas or wear that beautiful red dress?" I continued to stand and stare at him in stunned silence. Christmas party tonight. Did I dream of it? Troy grabbed his things and went to change, still trying to comprehend what was happening. I went to the bathroom and started applying makeup. Was this all a dream, or am I dreaming now? I hurried to look in the laundry basket, but there was nothing there. So I went to my dresser drawer. The black thong and matching bra that I thought I wore to the party were in the drawer. I decided to wear white lace panties and a bra. I put on a little red dress, then curled my hair. I grabbed a pair of red high heels and headed downstairs to meet Troy. Troy looked stunning in a black suit, white shirt, and a turquoise blue tie that brought out his eyes. He told me how fantastic I looked at that moment. I couldn't stand it and started crying hysterically. "Connie, what happened?" he said, hugging me. "Oh, Troy, please don't ever let me go. I love you so much." I looked into his eyes. "Please, Troy, do we have to go to the Christmas party? Don't cry, honey. I love you, too. And of course, we don't have to go there. Look, we're all dressed up. How about I take you to a nice restaurant and we can talk?" Troy walked me to the car and sat me down. It started to snow. I looked at the street lamp and the night sky sparkled with every little snowflake. Did my guardian angel fulfill my Christmas wish and give me a second chance? Troy took me to the city's Lula Lounge, which was a place we hadn't been to in a very long time. The dining area had private booths, and at the far end was a piano bar with a small dance floor. We sat at the bar and drank a glass of Riesling while waiting for a table to become available. Troy, I need to tell you something. Okay, Connie, I'll listen to what's on your mind. I have this guy at work, he has a crush on me, and then lately I sometimes go to lunch with him. We just talk, flirt, you know, nothing happens between us. I was flattered by his attention, that's all. Were you flattered? What exactly were you flattered by? Well, I was flattered because he kissed me and I let him and I really regret it. Troy, please don't hate me. I don't know what came over me. I made stupid decisions, but it's all over. If you don't mind, I would like to submit my resignation from my job. Can I just focus on my family for now? We need to restore our relationship. I want to be the wife you deserve. Troy, please forgive me. Just then, the pianist started playing, and Troy stood up and took my hand. Dance with me. At first, it was just the two of us on the dance floor. Then another couple joined us. I laid my head on his chest and cried. Troy just held me in his arms as we danced at the end of the song. He wiped my tears and we went back to the bar. We were immediately escorted to a private little booth at the back of the restaurant. I wasn't feeling particularly hungry, so we shared some butternut squash and a creamy wine sauce and smoked salmon with a creamy dill sauce and creamy capers. While I was picking at my food, Troy started talking about work, the holidays, Christmas, and of course, our little girl. Without even bringing up what we just talked about at the bar, I thought I was in some kind of fairy tale world. Why am I here now, in this restaurant with my husband? How come I don't make that terrible mistake with Brad at the Christmas party across town? Was it all a dream, a premonition, or was my guardian angel saving me? After dinner we went straight home, not talking, just listening to music. I didn't want to bring this up again. At home, I asked Troy if he wanted another drink. A glass of wine would be nice. Thank you. He came in and sat down in the living room, and I grabbed our drinks and joined him, sitting down next to him. We just looked at each other for a while. Then he spoke. Connie, I'm aware of what was going on at your place of work and I'm glad you told me, because I was starting to think there might be a problem that could not be solved. And this relates to your previous question. I will be glad if you stay at home for the near future, just like it was when we brought our little angel home from the hospital. Spend as much time as you need. Let's not talk about it anymore. How about we have a very Merry Christmas?